The alien ship Harmony's Edge moved slowly through space, its dark hull almost invisible against the starry background. Inside the command center, Commander Zethkar studied the blue and green planet on his main screen. His 6 eyes focused on the swirling white clouds that covered parts of the world below. Such a small planet, Zethkar said to his second officer. Hard to believe these creatures think they own it. Officer Nemtar clicked his claws together, a sign of amusement among the Vrex people. The humans are quite amusing, Commander. Our scouts report they still use chemical rockets to reach their own moon. Very primitive. Zethkar had been watching Earth for 3 months now. The Galactic Coalition had sent him here to study the humans before making contact. What he found was disappointing. These creatures had barely left their home planet. They had a few small stations in orbit and 1 tiny base on their moon. Their technology was at least 500 years behind Coalition standards. Have you finished the report on their military? Zethkar asked. Yes, Commander. They have nuclear weapons, but nothing that could threaten our shields. Their fastest ships take months to travel between planets in their own system. They use radio waves to talk to each other, which is very slow. Zethkar nodded. The humans would be easy to control. Like all primitive species, they would be given a choice. Join the Coalition as servants, or be forced to join. Either way, they would serve the greater good of the galaxy. Far below on Earth, Captain Jake Morrison sat in his command chair aboard the patrol ship Liberty. The ship was currently stationed near Mars, watching for asteroids that might threaten the mining operations. It was boring work, but someone had to do it. Jake had been in space for 15 years. He had seen Earth grow from a single-planet species to one with colonies throughout the solar system. The progress was slow but steady. In another 50 years, humans might be ready to travel to other star systems. Captain, called Lieutenant Dan Foster from the communications station, I'm getting something strange on the deep space sensors. Jake turned his chair toward Foster. What kind of strange? It's a signal, sir, but it's not coming from any human ship or station. The pattern is completely different from anything in our databases. Jake felt his heart rate increase. For decades, scientists had wondered if humans were alone in the universe. Many believed that other intelligent life existed somewhere among the stars, but this was the first time anyone had detected proof. Can you decode it? Jake asked. Working on it now, sir. The computer is running translation programs. Foster paused, listening to his earpiece. Captain, I think it's a message, and I think it's directed at us. Jake stood up and walked over to Foster's station. On the screen, symbols appeared and disappeared as the computer worked to understand the alien language. Slowly, words in English began to appear. People of Earth, the message began. We are the Galactic Coalition. We have been watching your species for many years. The time has come for you to join the greater community of intelligent beings. Jake read the words twice, hardly believing what he was seeing. Aliens. Real aliens were talking to humanity. This was the most important moment in human history. The message continued. You will be contacted by our representatives in 72 hours. Prepare your leaders for negotiations. Resistance is not recommended. Not recommended? Jake said, out loud. That sounded more like a threat than a greeting. Foster looked up from his screen. Captain, there's more. The signal is coming from a ship about 1 million kilometers away. Our sensors show it's huge, maybe 10 times bigger than our largest vessels. Jake thought quickly. If aliens had ships that large, they probably had weapons to match. Humanity would need to be very careful in the coming days. Send this message to Earth Command immediately, Jake ordered. Priority Alpha. And Dan, keep monitoring that ship. I want to know if it moves or does anything unusual. On Earth, Dr. Lisa Barnes was working late in her laboratory when the emergency alert came through. As the planet's chief expert on possible alien life, she was one of the first people called when Jake's message arrived. Lisa read the alien transmission 3 times, her excitement growing with each reading. She had spent her entire career preparing for this moment. Humanity was about to learn they were not alone in the universe. But something about the message worried her. The aliens spoke about humanity like they were already in charge. They offered no real choice, just demands disguised as invitations. Lisa picked up her secure phone and called the White House. President Sam Mitchell needed to know about this immediately. 20 minutes later, Lisa sat in the Oval Office with President Mitchell and his top advisors. The room was quiet as everyone absorbed the news. "How much do we know about these aliens?" President Mitchell asked. "Very little, sir," Lisa replied. "The message suggests they've been watching us for years, but we've never detected them before. Their technology is clearly more advanced than ours." Defense Secretary Bob Kelly leaned forward in his chair. "The message sounds like an ultimatum to me. They're not asking if we want to join their coalition. They're telling us we have to." President Mitchell nodded. "That's how I read it, too. The question is, what do we do about it?" General Rick Taylor, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, spoke up. "Mr. President, we need to assume they have superior firepower. If they've been watching us without being detected, they probably have weapons we can't imagine." "So you're saying we should surrender?" asked Secretary of State Maria Lopez. "I'm saying we need to be realistic about our chances in a fight, General," Taylor replied. President Mitchell was quiet for a long moment. Finally, he spoke. "Humanity has faced bullies before. We've never backed down when our freedom was threatened. I don't intend to start now." Lisa felt a chill run down her spine. If humanity chose to resist, it could mean war with beings far more advanced than themselves. But she also understood the president's position. Freedom was worth fighting for, even against impossible odds. "What are your orders, sir?" General Taylor asked. President Mitchell looked around the room at his advisors. "We have 72 hours to prepare. I want our best people working on this. Find out everything we can about these aliens, and activate the deep space defense protocols." As the meeting ended, Lisa wondered if humanity was making the right choice. The aliens clearly believed humans were primitive and weak. Maybe that assumption would work in humanity's favor. Maybe the aliens would underestimate what humans were capable of when their survival was at stake. She hoped they would find out soon enough. Commander Zethkar floated in his command chair, watching the data streams flow across his screens. His intelligence officers had spent the last 24 hours gathering information about human military capabilities. What they found made him laugh. "Show me their strongest weapons again," Zethkar said to his tactical officer. Officer Velmix activated the holographic display. Images of human nuclear missiles appeared in the air between them. "These are their most powerful weapons, Commander. They call them intercontinental ballistic missiles, very crude fusion devices." Zethkar studied the primitive rockets. "How much damage could they do to our shields?" "Practically none, sir. Our deflector screens could absorb thousands of these explosions without failing. The humans might as well throw rocks at us." The other officers in the command center made clicking sounds with their claws. This was how the Vrex people showed amusement. The idea of fighting humans was like imagining a battle between adults and children. "What about their space fleet?" Zethkar asked. "Even more pathetic," Velmix replied. "They have perhaps 50 ships capable of leaving their planet's orbit. Most are cargo vessels or research ships. We detected only a dozen that could be considered military vessels, and those carry weapons barely suitable for fighting pirates." Zethkar felt pleased with this news. The Coalition's rules required them to give primitive species a chance to surrender peacefully. But if the humans were foolish enough to resist, the war would be over in hours. "Their technology is at least 5 centuries behind ours," Velmix continued. "They still use chemical rockets for propulsion. Their fastest ships would take months to travel between the planets in their own system. We could cross their entire solar system in 2 days." "And their defenses?" Zethkar asked. "Laughable. They have a few orbital platforms around their homeworld. But our sensors show they're armed with the same primitive weapons as their ships. A single cruiser from our fleet could destroy their entire defensive network." Zethkar nodded with satisfaction. This would be one of the easiest conquests in Coalition history. The humans would realize they had no choice but to submit. Most primitive species accepted their fate once they understood how hopeless resistance would be. Meanwhile, deep beneath the Rocky Mountains on Earth, Colonel Matt Rodriguez walked through corridors that officially did not exist. The Cheyenne. Mountain Deep Space Command Center had been built in secret over the past 30 years. Only a handful of people knew about humanity's hidden preparations. Matt stopped at a massive steel door marked with warning signs in 12 languages. He placed his hand on the scanner and waited for the computer to verify his identity. The door opened with a heavy grinding sound. Inside, dozens of technicians worked at control stations. Giant screens showed star charts and tactical displays. This was the nerve center of Earth's real defense network, the one no alien scanner would ever detect. "Status report," Matt said to the duty officer. Major Susan Clark turned from her console. "All deep space assets are coming online, sir. The asteroid belt stations are fully operational. Luna Base is ready. The outer system platforms are charging their main batteries." Matt nodded. For decades, humanity had been building defenses throughout the solar system. To any observer, they looked like mining operations, research stations, and communication relays. In reality, they were weapons platforms more advanced than anything the galaxy had ever seen. "What about the Ghost Fleet?" Matt asked. "Standing by, sir. All 743 vessels are maintaining their disguises. The enemy will never know they're there until we're ready to strike." Matt smiled grimly. The aliens thought humans had 50 ships. They were wrong by a factor of 15. Most of humanity's real fleet was hidden throughout the solar system, disguised as asteroids, space debris, and civilian vessels. At the Lunar Research Facility, Dr. Amy Watson put the finishing touches on her latest creation. The sleek ship in front of her looked nothing like the crude rockets the aliens had detected. This vessel used technology that would have seemed like magic to humans just 50 years ago. "Final systems check," Amy said to her team. The engineers ran through their checklists. Gravitational drive online, quantum communication array ready, adaptive stealth systems fully operational, plasma cannon arrays charged and ready. Amy felt proud of what they had accomplished. This ship could travel faster than light, communicate instantly across vast distances, and fight with weapons that could shatter planets, and it was just one of hundreds like it. "Dr. Watson," called her assistant Tom Bradley, "we're getting a message from Earth Command. They want to know if the prototype is ready for combat." Amy looked at the beautiful ship one more time. "Tell them the Vengeance is ready to show these aliens what human engineering can really do." Back on the patrol ship Liberty, Captain Jake Morrison received new orders from Earth Command. The message was short and coded, but Jake understood what it meant. Humanity was not going to surrender. "Dan," Jake called to his communications officer, "open a channel to the alien ship." Lieutenant Foster worked at his controls. "Channel open, sir." Jake took a deep breath. What he was about to do would change history forever. "Alien vessel, this is Captain Morrison of the Earth ship Liberty. I have been authorized to begin negotiations with your representatives." The reply came quickly. "Human vessel, this is Commander Zethkar of the coalition ship Harmony's Edge. We are pleased that your leaders have chosen to be reasonable. Prepare to receive our terms for your surrender." "I think there's been a misunderstanding," Jake said calmly. "We're not here to surrender. We're here to discuss the terms of your withdrawal from our solar system." There was a long pause. When Zethkar finally replied, his voice carried the tone of an adult correcting a foolish child. "Captain Morrison, perhaps you do not understand your situation. We represent a coalition of 12 advanced civilizations. Our technology is centuries ahead of yours. Resistance would be suicide." Jake smiled, though he knew the aliens couldn't see his face. "Commander, perhaps you don't understand our situation either. We've been preparing for this conversation for a very long time." "Preparing?" Zethkar laughed. "What could you possibly have prepared that would concern us?" "You'll find out soon enough," Jake replied. "But first, let me ask you a question. How many human ships do your sensors detect in this system?" Zethkar paused, probably checking his displays. 53 vessels, most of them civilian craft. "Why?" Jake's smile grew wider. "Just curious. We'll be in touch, Commander." Jake cut the communication and turned to his crew. "All hands, prepare for combat, and someone send a message to Earth Command. Tell them the aliens took the bait. The trap was set. Soon the galaxy would learn why it was never wise to threaten humanity." The 72-hour deadline passed like a shadow over Earth. In the Oval Office, President Sam Mitchell sat with his advisors as the final minutes ticked away. Outside, the world held its breath. Every human on the planet knew that these next few moments would decide their species' fate. "Mr. President," said General Rick Taylor, "it's time." Sam Mitchell nodded and walked to the communication console. He had practiced this speech 100 times, but his hands still shook slightly as he activated the transmission. This message would go directly to the alien fleet waiting beyond Earth's orbit. To the beings who call themselves the Galactic Coalition, President Mitchell began. "I am Sam Mitchell, elected leader of the human species. You have demanded our surrender within 72 hours. I am here to give you our answer." He paused, thinking of all the humans throughout history who had faced impossible odds. From ancient warriors fighting with spears against armored enemies, to pilots flying against superior forces in 2 world wars. Humanity had always found a way to survive. Our answer is no. Humanity does not kneel. We do not surrender our freedom to bullies, no matter how advanced their technology might be. If you want to control us, you will have to fight us. And I promise you this, we will make you regret that choice. The transmission ended. In the silence that followed, everyone in the room understood that there was no turning back now. Aboard the Harmony's Edge, Commander Zethkar stared at his communication screen in disbelief. Around him, his officers made confused clicking sounds. No primitive species had ever rejected the Coalition's generous offer before. "Did they just declare war on us?" asked Officer Velmix. "It appears so," Zethkar replied. He felt more puzzled than worried. It was like watching children challenge trained soldiers to combat. "Very well. If they choose destruction over wisdom, we will grant their wish." Zethkar activated his tactical display. "Target one of their orbital stations. Use minimum power. We will show them what resistance costs." The Coalition ship's main weapon charged with a low humming sound. Energy built up in the massive cannon until it glowed like a small star. This single shot could vaporize a mountain or boil away an ocean. "Firing," announced the weapons officer. A beam of pure energy lanced out from the alien ship, crossing the distance to Earth in seconds. It struck one of the orbital platforms that protected the planet's northern hemisphere. The aliens expected to see the station disappear in a ball of fire. Instead, something impossible happened. The energy beam struck an invisible barrier around the station and scattered harmlessly into space. Not only did the human platform survive, it immediately returned fire with a weapon the aliens had never seen before. The particle beam that erupted from the human station cut through space like a sword of light. It struck the Coalition ships, shields, and punched through them as if they were made of paper. Alarms screamed throughout the alien vessel as systems overloaded and failed. "Impossible," Zethkar shouted. "Our shields are the strongest in the galaxy." "Sir, we've lost 40% of our defensive screen," reported the damage control officer. "That weapon used some kind of quantum disruption field. Our shields can't stop it." Zethkar felt the first stirrings of fear. How could a primitive species possess weapons that could penetrate Coalition defenses? It was like discovering that children had somehow built laser cannons. But this was only the beginning of the Coalition's nightmare. Throughout the solar system, humanity's hidden fleet began to reveal itself. What the aliens had thought were asteroids suddenly came to life, their rocky surfaces falling away to expose gleaming warships beneath. Civilian cargo haulers shed their disguises and activated weapon systems that blazed with deadly energy. General Rick Taylor watched the transformation from his command center deep beneath Earth's surface. On the massive screens around him, red dots representing human ships appeared throughout the solar system. In minutes, the 50 ships the aliens had detected became 500. "All units, this is Earth Command," Taylor spoke into his headset. "Execute Operation Surprise. Show these invaders what happens when you threaten humanity." Captain Jake Morrison smiled as he received the order aboard the Liberty. His ship had been playing the role of a simple patrol vessel for months, but now it was time to drop the act. "All hands battle stations," Jake announced, "drop stealth mode and activate combat systems." The Liberty transformed before the aliens' amazed eyes. Armor plating slid back to reveal weapons that belonged on ships 10 times its size. Hidden engines roared to life, giving the vessel speed that defied the laws of physics as the aliens understood them. But Jake's ship was not alone. Throughout the solar system, hundreds of similar vessels revealed their true nature. The asteroid belt mining stations opened fire with massive rail guns that could punch holes through planets. Hidden bases on the outer moons launched swarms of fighters that moved faster than anything in the Coalition fleet. Commander Zethkar watched his tactical display fill with red enemy contacts. In the space of 10 minutes, the humans had gone from having a handful of primitive ships to commanding a fleet that outnumbered the Coalition forces 3-1. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "Where did all these ships come from?" His intelligence officer worked frantically at his station. "Commander, I'm analyzing the enemy vessels. Their technology, it's not primitive at all. Some of these weapons are more advanced than our own." "That's impossible. We've been watching them for years." "Sir, I think they've been watching us too. These ships use design principles I've never seen before. It's like they took our technology and improved it." On the lunar surface, Dr. Amy Watson gave the order her team had been waiting decades to hear. "Launch the Vengeance. Show them what human science can really do." The sleek ship rose from its hidden hangar like a silver arrow. It moved through space with impossible grace, bending the laws of physics around itself. This was humanity's most advanced creation, a vessel that represented 50 years of secret research and development. As the Vengeance approached the Coalition fleet, its weapon systems came online. The alien sensors couldn't even detect what kind of energy the human ship was using. It was completely outside their understanding of science. Zethkar realized with growing horror that everything the Coalition thought they knew about humans was wrong. This was not a primitive species stumbling into space. This was an advanced civilization that had been hiding its true capabilities while studying its potential enemies. "All ships, retreat to safe distance," Zethkar ordered. "We need to report this to the Coalition High Command immediately." But as the alien ships tried to withdraw, they discovered that the humans had surrounded them. There was nowhere to run. The hunters had become the hunted, and humanity was ready to show the galaxy exactly how dangerous that could be. The battle that followed changed everything the galaxy thought it knew about warfare. The Coalition fleet, trapped in Earth's solar system, found themselves fighting an enemy that refused to follow any known rules of combat. Commander Zethkar watched in horror as human ships attacked his formation. These vessels moved like nothing he had ever seen before. They didn't form neat battle lines or follow predictable patterns. Instead, they swarmed around the Coalition fleet like angry insects, striking from impossible angles and disappearing before his gunners could return fire. "Focus all weapons on the nearest human ship," Zethkar ordered. His tactical officer tried to comply, but the humans wouldn't stay still long enough to target. One moment, a human ship would be directly ahead. The next, it would be attacking from behind, using the gravity of nearby planets to change direction faster than Coalition computers could track. Lieutenant Colonel Steve Parker led a squadron of human fighters in an attack that made no sense by alien standards. Instead of flying in formation, his pilots scattered across the battlefield. They used asteroids as cover, hid behind the larger human ships, and even flew directly through the exhaust trails of Coalition vessels to mask their approach. "Alpha Squadron, hit them from below," Steve called over his radio. "Beta Squadron, circle around and attack their engines. Don't give them time to think." The alien ships tried to respond, but their tactical computers couldn't predict what the humans would do next. Coalition warfare followed ancient patterns that had been refined over thousands of years. But humans fought like no other species in the galaxy. When Coalition ships attempted to retreat, human vessels blocked their escape routes. When the aliens tried to form defensive positions, human ships appeared inside their formations, having somehow slipped past sensors that should have detected them easily. The most terrifying thing for the aliens was that humans seemed to have no regard for their own survival. Coalition pilots were trained to preserve their ships and crew above all else. Losing experienced personnel was considered a waste of valuable resources. But human pilots thought differently. When Captain Julie Adams saw that her ship Ghostwalker couldn't escape from 3 Coalition destroyers, she didn't try to run. Instead, she flew directly into the center of the enemy formation and detonated her ship's power core. The explosion destroyed all 3 alien vessels and created a gap in their defensive line that other human ships quickly exploited. To the aliens, this looked like madness. To humans, it was just another tactical option. "Sir, the humans are using suicide attacks," reported Zethkar's tactical officer. "They're destroying their own ships to damage ours." Zethkar couldn't understand this behavior. Why would they throw away trained crew members? Don't they realize how difficult they are to replace? What Zethkar didn't know was that Captain Adams and her crew had survived. At the last moment before detonation, they had used a technology the Coalition had never seen: emergency teleportation that moved the entire crew to safety aboard another human ship. The humans weren't actually sacrificing their people. They were using the aliens' assumptions against them, making the Coalition think they were facing an enemy with unlimited willingness to die. But the real shock came when Coalition ships tried to surrender. In galactic warfare, there were strict rules about accepting the surrender of defeated enemies. When a ship powered down its weapons and sent the traditional surrender signal, the fighting was supposed to stop. The humans ignored these signals completely. Captain Morrison aboard the Liberty received a surrender transmission from a Coalition cruiser that had lost its shields and weapons. According to every rule of civilized warfare, Morrison should have accepted the surrender and taken the crew prisoner. Instead, he opened fire with every weapon his ship possessed. "Captain, they're trying to surrender," called Lieutenant Foster from his communication station. "I don't see any white flag," Morrison replied coldly. "And last I checked, humanity never agreed to follow their rules." The Coalition cruiser exploded in a ball of fire. There were no survivors. This pattern repeated throughout the battle. Human ships showed no mercy to enemies who tried to surrender. They fought with a brutal efficiency that shocked the Coalition forces. When alien crews abandoned their damaged ships in escape pods, human fighters hunted them down and destroyed them. To the Coalition, this was barbaric. To humans, it was practical. These aliens had come to enslave humanity. They deserved no mercy. Commander Zethkar realized that his fleet was not just losing the battle. It was being systematically destroyed by an enemy that fought like demons. Half his ships were already gone, and the humans showed no signs of slowing down. "All remaining vessels, full retreat," he ordered. "We need to reach the jump point and return to Coalition space." But when the alien ships tried to escape, they discovered that the humans had anticipated this move. The Vengeance, Dr. Watson's experimental ship, appeared directly in their path. The sleek vessel moved with impossible speed, blocking every escape route. "This is Captain Kelly of the human vessel Vengeance," came a transmission. "You are not leaving this system. Your invasion ends here." Zethkar activated his main screen to get a better look at the human ship. What he saw made his blood run cold. The Vengeance was smaller than most ships in his fleet, but it radiated power like a miniature star. Energy readings from the human vessel were off the charts. "Impossible," Zethkar whispered. "No ship that size could generate that much power." The Vengeance proved him wrong. The human ship opened fire with weapons that seemed to bend reality itself. Space twisted around the energy beams, and when they struck Coalition ships, the alien vessels simply ceased to exist. They didn't explode or burn. They just vanished as if they had never been there at all. In 30 minutes of combat, the Coalition fleet of 80 ships was reduced to 12. The survivors huddled together, their weapons useless, their shields failing, their crews paralyzed with fear. The humans had not just won the battle. They had demonstrated a way of fighting that would give the entire galaxy nightmares. And this was only the beginning of what humanity was capable of when truly angered. Commander Zethkar sent an emergency transmission to Coalition High Command. The message was simple, but terrifying. "The humans are not what we thought. We have awakened something that should have been left alone. May the gods help us all." The emergency transmission from Commander Zethkar reached Coalition High Command 3 days after the battle. When the message arrived at the central world of Rex Prime, It created panic among the leaders of 12 different alien civilizations. Hi. Chancellor Korvex of the Vrex Empire read the battle report 3 times before he could believe what it said. According to Zethkar, the humans had destroyed most of a coalition fleet using technology that shouldn't exist and tactics that made no sense. This cannot be accurate, Korvex said to his military advisors. How could a primitive species defeat our most advanced warships? General Tonmore, the coalition's supreme military commander, studied the sensor recordings that had survived the battle. What he saw made him feel sick. Chancellor, I believe the report is correct. The humans have been deceiving us for decades. The recordings showed human ships moving faster than coalition vessels, using weapons more powerful than anything in the Galactic arsenal, and fighting with a ruthlessness that shocked the alien observers. Look at this, General Tonmore said, pointing to one part of the recording. The humans don't just try to disable enemy ships, they completely destroy them. Even when our crews tried to surrender, the humans showed no mercy. High Chancellor Korvex felt fear creeping into his thoughts. The coalition had ruled this part of the galaxy for over 1,000 years. No species had ever successfully resisted them before. What do we know about human capabilities? Korvex asked. That's the problem, Chancellor. We thought we knew everything about them. But it appears they have been watching us while we watched them. They've had access to our technology for decades, maybe longer. Meanwhile, in the Earth's solar system, Commander Zethkar found himself a prisoner aboard Captain Morrison's ship. The human captain had captured him after the Harmony's Edge was disabled. Now Zethkar sat in a small room, waiting to learn his fate. The door opened and Captain Morrison entered. He looked tired but satisfied. Behind him came a woman in a white coat who Zethkar recognized as Dr. Amy Watson, the human scientist who had designed the Vengeance. Commander Zethkar, Morrison said, sitting down across from the alien prisoner. We need to have a conversation. Zethkar tried to maintain his dignity despite the circumstances. I am a prisoner of war. According to galactic law, you cannot force me to reveal military secrets. Morrison laughed, and the sound made Zethkar nervous. Commander, you still don't understand. We never agreed to follow galactic law. We've been making our own rules. Dr. Watson activated a tablet and showed Zethkar images that made his blood freeze. The pictures showed coalition ships being destroyed, their crews killed without mercy, their technology captured and studied. How long? Zethkar asked quietly. How long have you known about us? Morrison exchanged a look with Dr. Watson. Tell him, Morrison said. Dr. Watson leaned forward. We detected your first scout ships in 1887. That's over 130 years ago by your calendar. Since then, we've been preparing for the day you would come. Zethkar felt the world spinning around him. Impossible. Our scouts reported that humans had no space technology at that time. Your scouts were right, Dr. Watson replied. We didn't have space technology, but we had something your people never expected, patience and the ability to learn quickly. She showed him more images. These pictures showed human teams recovering pieces of crashed alien ships, scientists studying alien technology in secret laboratories, engineers building weapons based on coalition designs. Every time one of your ships malfunctioned and crashed on Earth, we learned something new, Dr. Watson continued. Every time your scouts transmitted data back to your fleet, we intercepted those signals and decoded them. For over a century, we've been studying your weaknesses while you ignored us. Morrison took over the explanation. The coalition made a critical mistake. You assumed that a species without faster-than-light travel couldn't be a threat. But you forgot that intelligence and determination can overcome technological disadvantages. Zethkar finally understood the scope of the human deception. The ships we detected, the primitive technology, all fake, Morrison confirmed. We built those simple rockets and space stations specifically for your sensors to find. We wanted you to think we were helpless. While you were watching our decoy fleet, our real ships were hiding throughout the solar system. Dr. Watson pulled up another file on her tablet. We know the location of every coalition world. We know the specifications of every ship in your fleet. We know your military codes, your supply routes, and your battle tactics. You've been fighting a war against an enemy that knew everything about you while you knew nothing about us. Zethkar felt his hope draining away. What happens now? Morrison stood up and walked to the small window. Outside, human ships moved, through space with purpose and confidence. Now we send a message to your coalition, a message they'll never forget. 3 hours later, President Sam Mitchell appeared on screens throughout coalition space. The alien leaders had expected to hear terms for human surrender. Instead, they heard something that chilled them to their cores. Leaders of the so-called Galactic Coalition, President Mitchell began. Your invasion of our solar system has failed. Your fleet has been destroyed. Your commander is our prisoner. He paused to let this sink in before continuing. But this is not the end. This is just the beginning. For over a century, humanity has been preparing for war with your species. We know where you live. We know how to hurt you. And we know that you will try again. The alien leaders watched in growing horror as President Mitchell outlined humanity's true capabilities. Hidden manufacturing facilities that could build warships faster than any coalition world. Weapon technologies that could destroy entire planets. Most terrifying of all, a network of human agents that had been infiltrating coalition space for decades. We are not the primitive species you thought we were, President Mitchell continued. We are your worst nightmare. We are humans who have been preparing for war against a superior enemy, and now we are ready. The transmission ended with a simple message that would echo throughout the galaxy for generations to come. Any attempt to attack Earth or its colonies will result in the complete destruction of the attacking species. We have the tools to carry out this threat. Do not test our resolve. General Tonmore turned to High Chancellor Korvax with fear in his eyes. Chancellor, what are your orders? Korvax stared at the empty screen for a long moment. Finally, he spoke in a voice barely above a whisper. Send a message to all coalition worlds. Tell them to avoid human space at all costs. And pray to whatever gods they worship that the humans never decide to come looking for us. 6 months after the failed invasion, the galaxy had changed forever. The coalition's member species lived in constant fear of the humans who had emerged from their single star system like an ancient nightmare made real. On the coalition capital world of Rex Prime, High Chancellor Korvax stared at intelligence reports that grew more terrifying each day. Human ships had been spotted in 12 different star systems. Planets that had never seen an alien visitor suddenly found human survey teams studying their defenses. The predators had become prey, and they didn't like the feeling. How many ships do the humans have now? Korvax asked his intelligence chief. We estimate at least 2,000 combat vessels, Chancellor. But they keep building. More. Our spies report that every human colony world has massive shipyards working around the clock. Korvax felt sick. 2,000 ships was larger than the entire coalition fleet, and these weren't primitive vessels like the humans had pretended to have. These were warships more advanced than anything the coalition possessed. What about their colonies? Korvax asked. That's the worst part, Chancellor. These aren't peaceful research stations. Every human colony is a fortress. They have enough weapons to destroy entire star systems if attacked. Admiral Jake Morrison, now promoted after the destruction of the coalition fleet, stood on the bridge of his new flagship, the Retribution. The massive dreadnought was the size of a small city and carried enough firepower to flatten planets. It was also just one of 50 similar ships in humanity's rapidly growing fleet. Status report, Jake ordered. Commander Lisa Barnes, his new second officer, consulted her displays. All colonial installations are online, Admiral. New Terra has completed its orbital defense grid. The mining stations in the Centauri system are fully operational, and the Deep Space Monitoring Post report no coalition activity in our territory. Jake nodded with satisfaction. In 6 months, humanity had established a presence in 20 star systems. Each colony was more than just a settlement. It was a statement of power that warned other species to keep their distance. Any response to our latest diplomatic messages? Jake asked. Several smaller species have requested trade agreements, Barnes replied. They're all eager to avoid the fate of the coalition. The Kethran Republic wants to discuss a mutual defense pact, the Zephyr Collective is offering to share their medical technology in exchange for protection. This was the new reality of galactic politics. Instead of fearing the coalition, alien species now sought human protection. The galaxy's power structure had flipped completely in just half a year. On the remote world of Corial, representatives from the remaining coalition species held secret meetings. They spoke in whispers, afraid that human spies might be listening. Their topic was always the same: what to do about the human problem. Emperor Vrexthul of the Vrex Empire, the coalition's former leader, looked exhausted. The weight of his species' failure pressed down on him like a physical burden. "We have 3 options," he told the gathered leaders. "We can try to make peace with the humans. We can attempt another military strike. Or we can retreat to the far edge of the galaxy and hope they leave us alone." General Tonmore, who had lost most of his fleet to human weapons, shook his head. "Military action would be suicide. The humans don't just defeat their enemies, they erase them completely. Look what happened to the Cordon system." The other leaders fell silent. The Cordon had been a minor coalition member that foolishly attacked a human survey ship 2 months ago. The humans' response had been swift and absolute. The entire Cordon fleet was destroyed within hours. Their homeworld was left intact but defenseless, its population forced to accept human occupation. "The humans didn't just conquer the Cordon," General Tonmore continued. "They made an example of them. Now every species in the galaxy knows what happens when you fight humans." Back on Earth, President Sam Mitchell addressed the United Nations in a session that was broadcast throughout human space. The chamber was larger now, with representatives from humanity's growing number of colony worlds. "My fellow humans," President Mitchell began, "6 months ago, we faced extinction at the hands of alien invaders. Today, we are the strongest military power this galaxy has ever seen." The assembled representatives cheered. Humanity had not just survived their first contact with alien civilization, they had conquered it. "But our work is not finished," President Mitchell continued. "We must ensure that no species ever again threatens human freedom. We must build our defenses stronger. We must expand our territory wider. And we must make certain that every alien in this galaxy understands one simple truth: humanity will never again be threatened." Dr. Amy Watson, now head of Human Advanced Research, watched the speech from her laboratory on Luna. Around her, teams of scientists worked on projects that would have seemed impossible just a year ago. Weapons that could destroy stars. Ships that could cross the galaxy in days. Technologies that would make humanity the undisputed masters of space. "Dr. Watson," called her assistant, Tom Bradley, "we're getting reports from the deep space monitoring stations. 3 more alien species have requested meetings with human diplomats." Amy smiled. These weren't invasion fleets coming to threaten Earth. They were delegations coming to beg for humanity's friendship and protection. On the bridge of the Retribution, Admiral Morrison received a priority transmission from Earth Command. The message was brief but important. A coalition remnant fleet had been detected moving toward human space. They appeared to be attempting one final attack on humanity's outer colonies. "All ships, this is Admiral Morrison," he announced over the fleet communication system. "We have hostile contacts approaching Sector 7. All vessels in the area are to intercept and destroy. No prisoners, no survivors, no mercy." The response was immediate. 50 human warships changed course toward the approaching threat. The aliens had learned nothing from their first defeat. They were about to learn why that was a fatal mistake. As the human fleet moved to intercept their enemies, Admiral Morrison thought about how much had changed. 6 months ago, humanity had been hiding from aliens who thought they were superior. Now those same aliens fled in terror whenever human ships appeared. The galaxy had learned a lesson that would never be forgotten. Throughout space, on 1,000 different worlds, parents told their children stories about the humans from the small blue planet. The stories all ended the same way, with a warning that had become the most important rule in the galaxy: never anger the humans.